Hi there, this is John Hyman from Commercial Real Estate Online. Welcome to the program. This is the video show where I like to share tips, tools and ideas in commercial real estate brokerage around the world. Now, this particular topic is all about shopping centre leasing, because in this market today there's plenty of challenges out there when it comes to shopping centre leasing in various locations. Plenty of vacancies to work with. Now, of course, that's a good thing anyway, because as agents, as brokers, we can get involved with solving the vacancy problems. So that's what I want you to think about. And in this particular short video, I'll give you some ideas to deal with that. So every shopping centre should have a strategy, a plan of leasing. And within that plan, there are different ways of looking at things, what you have within the property and what the market requires when it comes to leasing activity. I have a number of articles on the website which can help you with this. And this particular article here is certainly useful. It's all about shopping centre leasing and how to find more retail tenants. And I'll come back to that shortly. So now let's deal with the overall topic and how you can boost your shopping centre leasing activity. So I had broken this particular topic down into three main subsections: the vacancy exposure, the cash flow expectations of the landlord, and the property market conditions. So if you're going to do a shopping centre leasing plan to solve those vacancies, you should be thinking about these three things in different ways. So let's look at that and see how you can work on that and build it. So let's go into vacancy exposure. There are some categories here for you to work with and break down. First and foremost, you need to know exactly what the lease expiry dates are in the property when they're coming up. Now, personally, I would look 18 months out to understand every lease that expires inside 18 months. As well as that, I would look at the option dates that are coming up as well. In other words, the tenants that could have an option to renew in their current location. So once I've done that, I've got a good idea of what I've got to do with the various leases that are coming up, at least handling them. And as I said, 18 months out. The next thing you do is you look at the tenancy mix. And in the tenancy mix, you've got to cover off on quite a few different issues. For example, the existing merchandise groups, the critical dates within each lease. That says that each particular lease will have certain dates that are important to understand and work within. Then there'll be the lease terms and conditions to work with as well. The terms and conditions required by the landlord in any particular new lease and also in the existing leases. Then there'll be a property business plan to work with, understanding that property business plan, what people want, how the plan forecasts future cash flow and forecasts tenancy changes. And the other part to consider here is the tenant retention plan. And you should have one of those for the property anyway, which says that you'll be renewing or keeping certain tenants in the property as a deliberate choice. So that is the tenancy mix review. You've got to gather that information so you can get a sensible perspective on what's going on in the property. So that was vacancy exposure. And as I said, I worked through the lease expiry dates, the tenancy mix review. But once you've done that, you've got to go to the priority tenants, understand who they are in the property, because you'll have your major tenants to work with, your specialty tenants, and there'll be choices within that. Some of these tenants will be better than others. Some tenants you don't mind losing, but other tenants you want to keep. So those two categories need to be understood, and they need to be part of the business plan for the shopping centre. Now, once you review that, you've then got these two factors over here. Some of those tenants will be needing to contract, others expand. So look at the two categories of tenants here, then understand the contraction and the expansion needs. And then you move on to this group, which is the merchandise group. When you're looking at a shopping centre, understand every tenant and where they fall within all of these categories. These are the main categories of the merchandise groups for a shopping centre. And of course, they can all be split down into different subcategories as well. And I'll do that again in a later video for you. But just as an example, in the fashion tenants, these are the subsets that you would be thinking about for your merchandise groups. Of course, ladies fashion, men's fashion, sports fashion, children and accessories. So that's fashion. And they are the existing merchandise groups. So you're actually balancing the merchandise groups across the shopping centre, understanding all of these things, who you want, who you don't want, who you're missing out on when it comes to tenants within that particular shopping centre. So that then is the vacancy exposure. The 4 categories to look at: the lease expiry dates, the tenancy mix review, the priority tenants, and the existing merchandise groups. So once you've done that, and that is part 1 of the shopping centre leasing plan, you've then got to go to the cash flow expectations of the landlord. You've got to understand that because you'll be choosing other tenants to fill vacancies. So what does the cash flow expectation of the landlord do to you as a leasing expert, maybe a centre manager? So I've broken 4 things down here for you: the budgeted rents, the market rents, the property operational outgoings, and the status of the tenant retention plan. So those 4 things sit inside this category. And for example, the big one for me here is the budgeted rents. There are different ways of looking at the rents for a shopping centre. You'll have the effective rent, the base rent that's effective without incentives. Then you'll have the face rent, which is loaded by an incentive to attract a tenant. You'll also have gross rents, you'll have net rents, and you'll have incentives to work through. So all of these things should sit inside the budgeted rents for the property. So every lease you negotiate should take into account these things as part of the budgeted rent strategy for the property. Then you'll go on into this subset, which is the market rents. What's going on out there at the moment when it comes to other properties with other comparable rentals, and what are the other shopping centres offering in the location? Then you'll be looking at your property operational outgoings, because sometimes in a shopping centre the operational outgoings are recoverable in total or in part from the particular tenants. Of course, the only way you're going to know that is understand the terms and conditions of each lease, in each case with each tenant. Now, the next part of this particular subset is to look at the tenant retention plan for the property. And I'll go into the full details of a tenant retention plan later, but it's quite an important part of running a shopping centre in the leasing sense. You've got to know the tenants that you want to keep and those that you want to drop off. And of those tenants that you want to keep, you've got to know the lease terms and conditions that you will be running with. So go back to the top here, and they are the cash flow expectations of the landlord, taking into account budget rents, market rents, property operational outgoings, and the status of the tenant retention plan. So that was item 2 in the shopping centre leasing plan. So then we go to item 3, and that is the property market conditions. You've got to know what's going on out there when it comes to the property market, so you get your leasing activities correctly geared to the tenants that are inquiring and also the deals that you are negotiating. So these are the elements that I would certainly go through when it comes to property market conditions. Competing properties, you've got to start there to understand where the competing properties are, how many vacancies they have, and what they could be looking for in the market today by way of tenants, because that will impact your property and also your tenancy mix. Then you've got the supply and the demand factors for leased space currently. In other words, what is the inquiry like for leasing space in a shopping centre in your location? Then you'll need to go through the incentives on offer for your particular property, which could be rent-free, it could be a fit-out incentive, it could be even cash. It doesn't matter what it is, but how it works in the deal is quite important. So have the landlord decide about the incentives they are prepared for you to offer in any lease deal. Then, of course, you'll have lease terms on offer when it comes to a particular lease. What are those lease terms on offer? A lease term by number of years, the rents by type, the certain critical conditions of the lease that must be satisfied for the landlord to be happy when it comes to an investment. Then there'll also be retail sales by merchandise group, and you'll probably want to know what's going on within your shopping centre when it comes to that, because some merchandise groups will be growing and others not so. And then, of course, you've got the targeted tenants that you will be attracting when it comes to the overall lease strategy for the property. So they are the 3 main categories for a shopping centre leasing plan. In other videos, I'll go through the subsets here because there's quite a lot of other issues in the subsets. But understand this for what it is. And I have put an article here at the website for you to consider and work through and read. So it's the shopping centre leasing situation, how to find more retail tenants. So how would you find more retail tenants today? What is your plan? Taking into account some of these things here that I have mentioned. The idea is that you've got to plan your approach to tenants in the market today. You've got to get it right. And I put 4 categories here to gather for the property that you're going to lease. Understand the maintenance and how that can impact the overall leasing strategy for the property. Then there is the marketing approach for the property, that is in attracting customers to the property, because tenants coming to the asset as a new tenant will want to know about the marketing for the asset. Then you've got local properties nearby that can impact your property from a leasing perspective, and then also keep an eye on franchise groups. So that particular article will help you when it comes to understanding how to find more retail tenants, and you can print that off from the website. So in closing, the shopping centre leasing plan is very complex. It's a strategic approach to shopping centre management and leasing today. Take these 3 main topics and add to these topics that I've given you other issues to suit your location, your property, your landlord, etc. And of course, there'll be other videos here to help you in these subsets as well. So this is John Highman signing off for now. Don't forget to visit our website and print this article. I'll catch you again very soon at this channel to help you with shopping centre leasing, shopping centre management, and many other topics within commercial real estate brokerage around the world. Catch you soon.